everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews is a former U.S. Army combat canine handler with over 23 years of professional experience in canine training and behavioral modification. He is the founder of World of Dog Training, where he has worked with more than 6,000 dogs worldwide, including high-profile celebrity clients. Ryan is a published author, two-time TEDx speaker, and the creator of Canine Coach AI, an innovative platform that scales his training methodologies. His expertise spans advanced obedience, behavioral modification, and what he calls his anti-dog training approach that emphasizes relationship leadership and trust-based communication. After surviving multiple life-threatening challenges, including combat PTSD, cancer, and serious injuries, Ryan developed frameworks for trauma to transformation that he now teaches to leaders and high performers seeking calm, clarity, and control under pressure. You can find Ryan by going to his website, worldofdogtraining.com, or by emailing him at ryan@worldofdogtraining.com. And you can use his AI program by going to caninecoachai.com. Hello, Ryan. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Olivia, it's so good to be here with you. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Let's dive right in, but I do have to say my dog has now walked away, but the irony in it that when we started the show, he never runs into the room for recording, and he ran in and sat right down. And until I finished that intro, then he walked away. But I was like, how perfect. The dog
Oh,
comes
that's
to
funny.
join the convo. Um, to start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Ryan Matthews?
Geez, the answer today wouldn't be the answer 10 years ago, right? As I've evolved as a person, as I've grown as a man, it's really changed. And I would have said before, Olivia, that it was based upon what I've been able to achieve, chasing approval and worthiness based on accomplishments. And now it's about the richness of life. And those are the moments that I feel like you feel like you're dancing inside your heart and soul. It's the stuff that you just feel like the world is at your fingertips and you can craft the life that you really want to. I call that the richness of life. That for me is success. It's not the material things that I was really motivated by in the past.
And I think a lot of us go down that journey of first being driven by societal norms of what success looks like. And that's also why I named my business and podcast Achieving Success, because it is something that should change, that does
Mm.
change. And then we get to a point for a lot of us, I shouldn't say for all of us, where that no longer matters. And we want peace, and it looks different for
Mm.
each of us. I want to start in the beginning of your journey. So I'd mentioned earlier that you are a U.S. Army veteran. You worked in combat with the K9 unit. What what got you into the Army, and then specifically making the decision to work with canines in the military? Because I could only assume, based on the trajectory of your path since, that had a massive role in not only doing what you do now, but how you show up.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something I'm glad you're sitting down for because it's not the typical journey that one would may think it is how did you become this dog trainer? How did you get there? Well, it started with actually being a drug dealer of all things. Okay. So it was really, I remember I was walking to high school, I was in high school, I was walking with my buddy, and we found a brick of some drugs. I'm not going to say what, doesn't really matter. And my buddy's like, "Oh, well, let's, da da da." And I was like, "No, man, I'm gonna sell this." And it was like that was actually the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, where I thought, no, we can make money with this, right? And I got into that lifestyle, not hardcore. I wasn't like moving weight or anything, but I was involved in something pretty horrific where someone tried to rob me, and I went to protect myself. And um, it was a pretty intense situation. It was so intense that the people that I was involved with said they were going to kill me. And from that, I started to go into the military recruiting office, and I was like, the Marines, I'm like, your uniform is really cool, but you guys seem really brainwashed and super uptight. And the Navy guys, they didn't really seem like they were much military. And the Air Force, I'm like, I'm not smart enough for you guys. So the Army felt like a really good fit. That's one thing I keep it 100. I'm straight up. And so I joined the Army, Olivia, back in 2000. It was March 29th of 2000. And I remember I went to the recruiter and I said, look, I'll join. Like, we could do this really simple. I said, I want two things though. I want to be stationed overseas because you see, I was running, I was doing the avoid thing. And I said, number two, I want to become military police. My logic was that, if I didn't get the discipline and structure that I knew that I needed, that I was going to force myself to get it. And that was like, if I become military police, I can't do anything bad. I got to clean up. I got to be a better person. And that was actually the not so patriotic reason why I joined. It was selfish. It was to clean up my act and try to be a better person because I didn't know how to get there with what I had working with. So that's how it started.
But it's also, you're saying you didn't have what you needed to like get where you wanted to go. But also hearing that story, you made a conscious effort. You had the realization like I need to force myself to learn these tools or to have this accountability, right? These different things you just mentioned in that story. And you made the conscious decision and like took the time, whether it was a short few minutes or whatever it might be, to be like, shit, I need this. What's the path to getting there? Okay, this is the path,
Yeah,
right? And this is the direction. So there was direction there.
it
You
was.
had
And I had a good intention, but you know what? It didn't last for long. So I joined military police, right? And so I do the basic training thing, and I liked it. I was always an athlete, not at like a collegiate level or anything, but I was always into being active and being sports and stuff like that. And the military gave me a cool outlet for that as well. But here I find myself in Germany, my first duty station at 19 years old, and it was amazing. But I found myself military police officer under investigation within my first 6 months of my duty station in Germany. And what did that mean? That meant that they pulled me away from working the road as military police. I became the colonel's driver. And that colonel, he became like a father figure to me over time. He was a mentor, though I don't know that he knew that he was that for me. And it was an amazing experience. And after my time of being Colonel Chambliss's driver, he said, you can do anything you want after this. What do you want to do next? You could protect the generals. I think it's called PSD. You could become an investigator. Imagine that. The person that was in under investigation becoming an investigator. He knew my heart. He knew my work ethic. He knew that I was just misguided, but he knew that I was passionate and I cared. Anyways, I said, I want to work with dogs. And so I went to Lackland Air Force Base back in 2002, and I got certified as a military working dog handler. And that was my very first dog. Was this 95-pound German Shepherd named Rex? Was my very first dog, actually.
And what was that experience like for you starting in the training environment of working with dogs? And did you have experience going into that, or you were like, oh, this is something I've always had passionate about, and here's my time to try it out?
No, I mean, my first love of animals was actually with a horse. When I was like 5 years old, my mom would take me to go visit this horse, and we would just feed it carrots and apples and just be in his presence. And I felt the energy of this powerful, special, amazing being. But Olivia, I didn't have dogs growing up. So the very first dog that I had was this military working dog, Rex, 95. And so that was my first experience. And I remember one of the first experiences I had of Rex was him lunging on the end of the leash, being really intimidating, kind of like a form of hazing, that the guys do. But that was the first dog. And when you're young like that, like you don't really care. Like our tagline at canine school was free medical. Like we didn't care if we were going to get bit or messed up or nothing. We're like, hey, free medical. What do we care? But you know, when you're young like that, man, you don't care. So it was a really incredible experience. You could tell by the from the smile on my face, and those were some of the best times of my life. You know, working with dogs
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff in the
Well,
military.
and as you're talking about the lunging, I remember working when I was working in professional sports. And I've seen police dogs, right? These different dogs. Um, Distance or at the airport, right? And you're like, oh,
Uh-huh.
okay, be good. Just my working for the New York Giants, um, we have state troopers there, we have state dogs, like all of that. And the actual like arena, which a lot of people don't know, is arenas have canine dogs on 24/7, and then state troopers will bring in additional canine
Hmm.
dogs. So um when when on game days, I became friends with the agents that would come, the state troopers, the FBI that would come and always man the station. And one of them was a canine handler. And so I would go down and depending on what day time of the day it was on game days, I would actually be near where the canine unit was. And so I remember so vividly. There was this one day, and it's before a game day, right? And the dog is working. And they'd taken the dog out of the car and just had it like in its little area, right? And I'm staying there, and an employee, a ticket, like, the guy's checking your ticket, staying there, making sure you scan in, decided, I don't know what was going on in his head. Let me walk behind the canine dog. And all of a sudden, I've never seen anything like it in real time. The officer had the leash, right? And it's going one direction, and literally the staffer's walking behind the dog and the handler. Then this dog, it looks like it just twerked its body in half and went behind and bit down.
Oh.
And it was luckily, the way the guy was moving his hand was not there,
Ooh.
and but he had a water bottle in his pocket. That water bottle got cut right in half and was going everywhere. And all the handler was like, why did you walk behind a working dog? Like that area was, like generally barricaded off. So he's like, dude, you could have gotten so hurt. And I just remember, like, when you're talking about that lunging and like seeing the teeth, and I have videos of like them telling them to do something and whatever, and like stuff like that. I'm just like, that like always comes to mind where I'm like, a working dog's a working dog. And you got to understand that. And that, especially if it's military police dogs, they are trained and they can look fierce, but they can act fiercer.
That's true. Yeah. People will be like, is that dog a bite risk? You know, does it bite? It's like, look at the teeth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like they all bite under certain circumstances. That's kind of a unique situation. What happened? I mean, actually, that that happened to me too, but it was a carelessness. You know, I wasn't who I was as a dog handler slash trainer then versus now. I was in Korea. I was in Seoul, Korea, and I was searching someone's vehicle at the gate as a normal duty thing, and then someone like had a bag or something, the driver, and they were standing off to the side, and there was something about how they moved. Same thing. My dog just boom, like totally twerks its body, does a 180, and goes after the person. I'm like, well, I forget what dog I had at the time, but I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we're supposed to be in detection mode. We're not trying to hunt people. But yeah, those kind of things happen because these dogs are highly driven. You know, these
Mm-hmm.
are these are these are true athletes also.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it could be for a variety of reasons, but it shouldn't happen. Like that, my dog screwed up, and so did I. Obviously, no one got bit.
So
Just the bag did, though.
yeah, luckily. But I want to go forward now. So you after you left the military, you started training dogs, and you've now trained over 6,000 dogs. What made you decide to start World of Dog training?
Okay. Yeah, so when I got out of the army, I didn't know what I wanted to do for work, and I ended up going overseas to Kwajalein Atoll. For our military folks that are listening, maybe you've heard of it. For civilians, you likely haven't. It's a small atoll, not even an island. It's actually an army base in the South Pacific. It was half a mile wide by 3.5 miles long. I was a drug dog handler. There you go, the drug dealer, now the drug dog handler. Can't make this stuff up. As a civilian contractor on the army base. And I met someone very amazing there. And to make a long story short, we ended up being in a relationship. And she and I were in a really horrific accident. I was careless on an ATV. And so I moved to Colorado to be with her and help her get back to being healthy. So then when I was in Colorado, I didn't know what to do for work again. And I started to do research and I bought into a dog training franchise. I did 10,000 my first month. And that's when I was like, there's something to this. And this was back in 2008, like March of 2008. And I did that. And then the system was good. But as I learned more, as I worked on my craft, I was like, I feel like I could do things a bit differently. And then I launched a brand, sold that, and then I launched World of Dog Training in 2018, where I trained people to become trainers. And the reason why was because my dog Zito in the war, I felt like he saved my life. He kept me alive. And when I came back from the war, I was very numb. PTSD was extreme, but dogs felt like safe to me. It felt like a way that I could start to have emotions and feelings and all this stuff again. And so, in short, I feel like I owe everything to them. And that's when I'm like, well, how can I improve the quality of life of dogs? Well, number one, the owners are frustrated and the dogs are confused. I can bridge that gap of communication. But another really sad thing, Olivia, is that too many dogs are euthanized every year, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because people don't know how to handle them. And so I was like, if I can train other people to get out there in their community and work with dogs and work with the public, dogs don't get euthanized. And so there was a reason why I've created other products and things, is just to have dogs, give dogs a much better quality of life and to reduce euthanasia, because it's sad, there's too many being euthanized.
I want to dive into that deeper because one thing you just said as well is the the owners being frustrated, dogs having a better life, and dogs just being confused. And so, what do you think is the biggest gap between owners and dogs and the behavior that's happening?
Man, we would need to talk for like many hours for a few days in a row. I'm not kidding. But let me take it at 100,000 foot view. Now, again, Olivia, I don't want to say, I tell people, I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I wish what I'm sharing isn't what it is, but it's just what I've observed after working with so many dogs for so long. The problem is too many people are using dogs. It's not the best word, but they're using them to fill a void in their life. Right? The empty nesters, the dog is now their baby. Well, the thing that is uncomfortable for us to hear is that dogs, sweet, loving, unconditional love, loyal, yes, and I love all that. My Zeus, who's behind me, is the same. At the same time, they are manipulative. They are always like, how can I make my life better? And my friends, we have two types of dogs. We have the dog that says, Mom or Dad, what can I do to please you? I'm here. What can I do? Dog number two says, why should I? What's in it for me? Those are two very different types of dogs. And so the problem is people are treating them all the same. And so if people would not allow dogs to manipulate them, if people would set healthy boundaries, if people would lead with guidance and being a leader of their dog rather than love first, because if you truly love your dog, you will give them what they are designed to receive, which is they are born to follow. And so again, if we truly unconditionally love our dog like they do us, then we lead them, we guide them, and we ground ourselves in good energy, Olivia, like we're not emotional leaders, right? Because that doesn't feel safe to follow. Think about this in human terms of within an organization or raising your children.
And that's I think such an important thing as well is understanding that one, like, again, my dog Tough has come to this conversation. He's like, I'm here, I'm listening. And he's a very loving dog. He wants to do what's right and he wants to please us.
Mm.
But there are times where it can be later, whatever, and like my boyfriend and I, when we go to take him out, we tell him to go to his. Now he's walking away, so I could say the word. Because again, as you know, when you give a dog a command, it will then go do it. We'll then we'll say place, and there'll be times I like came back a few weeks ago from taking him out, and I was like to my boyfriend, yeah, it was weird. Like he didn't go, and I like said place like 3 times, and he just stood and was waiting for me to put the collar on him.
Huh.
And my boyfriend was like, did you force him up there? And I was like, no, I just did it there. I'm just saying it's annoying. He's like, I he took him out like 2 hours later, came back. He goes, that wasn't a problem. He's not acting weird. He was just manipulating you because he didn't want to get up there. Like, come on now. Right? Or different things. So to remember, just like a kid, when we're going to adulthood, there are times where we want to be defiant and just be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
do that right now. And if we look at it as from that perspective of like, think about it. Like you want to treat your dog like your kid, right? Or whatever it might be, then understand just like a kid, sometimes it wants to do not what you want it to do. And what are you going to do in those moments? But I also think, it's the mindset of, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, of like every dog is trainable. It isn't the dog, it's the human at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the thing. People reach out about dog training and they're always like, well, these are my dog's issues. And I just listen. I just listen. But I know really we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to work on the person.
Hmm.
And for example, I was doing a lesson earlier today and her dog is reactive. Well, the woman is nervous to walk her dog because she's already priming it, and we could think about how this plays out in our own personal lives about manifestation or the things that we think and create and all this kind of stuff. But the point is that dogs feel our energy. In fact, that energy is one of the secrets of my system. And so I encourage the client, like, you need to balance yourself first. And this is quite common on the walk. I say, lower your arm, lower your arm. And people will walk like this, or the leash is all awkward. And I'm like, our body mechanics naturally doesn't do that. Our arms are down by our side as we walk, and our arms sway. That is how you walk your dog. Otherwise, you are not being a confident leader. And if I'm looking to you, Olivia, as the leader, and you seem a little off, I'm gonna feel a little insecure. I'm gonna be like, what do I need to be aware of? Is there something going on? Because you seem different, right? And so again, if we can embody for ourselves first, for our family, but for our dog, this balanced energy, this groundedness, then that's easy to follow, right? So again, a lot of it is helping the people be more self-aware on how they're showing up and all this other kind of stuff. And so quite often I'm the trainer that people come to after they've been to like four others.
Hmm.
And all I do is make mild tweaks of the small, minute details, and then we move mountains. Because the way that you do simple things can impact the dog's mindset. And that is the secret to my system. Number one, top thing is mindset. When I shift the dog's mindset and the owner's, then half of the stuff just goes away. It solves itself surprisingly. It's really cool.
What do you think is the biggest mindset shift that you run into most often for
So
dogs
yeah,
and
people think that the answer to like getting most of the behaviors they want is through reward. And I'm only using reward in like three instances. Very young puppies to teach foundational behavior that they don't really know, like sit or down and this kind of stuff. For puppies, very young dogs. I also will use food. So we're talking about pets, not working dogs. I'll also use reward for teaching tricks, which I rarely do. But some celebrities want to stage their dogs in fun, unique ways and blah, blah, blah kind of stuff. And then the last way is once I once I dial down a reactive dog or an aggressive dog or a feel for dog, and I've stopped the bleeding, if you will, right? It's manageable. I will start to use some reward. But normally, reward intensifies a dog. They normally get too excited, too aroused, and then they're jumping up. And now you're addressing jumping up. Versus if you would just withhold a bit of that reward, you're creating unnecessary excitement and arousal and essentially just enjoy the behavior that was just good. But we're so conditioned. You got to reward, you got to reward, you got to reward. Instead of, for me, is you got to shift the mindset and then stuff gets really cool.
Yeah, and that's even one thing too is like, and I'd love to hear your thought process on this. If you're going to use like I'm thinking of like training here. I'm trying to work out my thought process. So take I'm currently in the process of training my dog to salute. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So that was one thing, being a military family, we were like, that'd be awesome. He's also technically a service dog, so that is his way to remind me to take my medicine. I was like, cool thing to do. That again, when you're talking about, that was a really, I'm going to actually pause what I was going to say, and I'd like to hear your thought on this. When you're training a dog to do something besides a heel, here, give, those kinds of things, right? In certain situations, you have to think about what would they not normally do in everyday situation where this command holds the weight it needs to hold, right? So
Uh-huh.
like using the example of a service dog, for example, and like training it. His service is to train me to take my medicine at a certain day and time. And I've seen, go online, right? You start searching because we're doing the training. He's older, like we rescued him, so he didn't go to a training facility to get that service dog training. So we were like, okay, what are we going to have him do? And online you're seeing, well, have him push up against you or
Uh-huh.
have him do
Yep.
this. And I'm like, I put his head on your
Your
leg or
lap.
something. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, but when he cuddles, sometimes he'll put his head on our legs, right? Or this and that. And I'm like, I don't want him to think he's not allowed to do that because he's not in X environment. So I was like, okay, we'll train him to salute. How often is he really going to hear the U.S. Coast Guard horns? Because that is his action, like the alarm code, and immediately go, I need to salute. It's going to be very rare. So, like, perfect situation. But how, in situations where you're teaching dogs commands, how do you identify what that trigger should be and how the dog should react, especially in situations where you have to think through, like, is the dog going paw, right? Paw's a great, if you do, and now I'm going on a rant, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you train a dog to paw, you say that, and now they get comfortable with giving you their paw. When they want attention, they're gonna start pawing.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, you've woken that up in them, right? You've shown them a new body mechanic, a new movement, and what you've done is you've created a neuroassociation. This equals that. And you can create, that's how we train dogs to search for bombs, drugs, whatever it is, right? It's this equals that. And so the dog doesn't care that it's searching for TNT. It doesn't care about that. It only cares that it knows that if it sits or lies down, as an example, when it smells that TNT, then it will get the thing that it's most prized possession, right? And so it's a cause and effect. So it's the same thing. So yeah, we do need to be careful about the things that we teach for some scenarios. For the everyday household pet, it's not as serious. But yeah, what we give meaning to, what we condition, um, you will see it later. Now, dogs are very routine like. So I'll give you an example. When I feed my dog Zeus, it's downstairs and he has to go to the place command, but I don't tell him to. He has to do it on his own. Now, if we really tune into our dog, we can notice cool stuff. And what I observed is I have his food and I walk up to him and I pause. Now, this is the secret, friends. It's the power of the pause. PAWS and PAUSE. If you pause more, your dog will do really cool stuff. So I walk up to Zeus on place and I just stand there for about 3 to 5 seconds and he will be patient. There's no barking, no whining, no nothing. I don't say anything. I encourage him to make good decisions. But what I wanted to point out was be this in tune with your dog. I noticed that every single time I feed Zeus, he will go on place and start to sit, but he raises his left paw up like 3 to 5 inches and then he sits. It's his natural body mechanic. It's always left paw, body mechanic. Think of that. Think of how routine and structured that is, and be that in tune with your dog to notice the minute details of what your dog does. I'm obviously a dog nerd, but it's fun. And what happens is you can start to predict behaviors and things like that. And you can actually get your dog to do behavior without saying anything. You can visualize it. And I tell Zeus commands telepathically. Sounds weird, I know, but it works. It sounds weird until you try it. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And then you want to show your family. But they're that in tune. They're that special in that way.
Well, and that, even giving that example, I'm thinking to the family dogs I have. Our first one, Paco, he would, if he had to go out, right, he started developing this pattern of he would just go to the door and sit.
Uh-huh.
And you knew, because you're like, wait, where is he? Whatever. You realize he's at the door. Time to go out. Our second family dog, Ella, she blinks. So if you're talking to her, oh yeah, it is incredible.
See, you have it. You have it down.
We will say to her, Ella, do you have to go out? And she'll just keep staring at us. Or Ella, do you need more water? Do you want more water? And she'll blink. And it's like, oh, you want water? And then she'll like go to her bowl and sit and wait for you. Like, you could be in the office, nowhere near it, right? And just ask her, like, what do you want? My dad has also trained her. He could just our first dog, Paco, they are related. Paco is Ella's uncle. Ella is our youngest dog's, Teddy's aunt. So they're all in a family line. But Paco, when you came in that house, used to do this howl that sounded like hello. We actually have it videotaped. Ella will say when she like really has to go and you're like, oh, let me just finish this, and she's like, no, it's time to go now. She'll actually like bark, howl in a way that sounds like the word out, and it's really funny. And then the youngest, yeah, it's like crazy. My dad will sometimes be like, Ella, just tell us you have to go out, and she'll like do it, and we're like, what is happening?
Are they huskies? That sounds like a husky.
They're Havaneses, purebred Havaneses. And then Teddy, he's just his own character. I can't. He does his own thing, but he kind of follows Ella. So when Ella's doing something, he heightens it or whatever. And then even Tough, like we're learning the nuances with him now of like he will kind of stop and he'll look in the direction. So if
yes,
he's like, I have to go out.
Yes.
And you're watching TV, he'll like sit next to you and just look at the
like, that's so
wait
cool.
for you to make eye contact and then look at the door, or things like that. So you are completely right. You start to hone in on those things very much.
I hope your audience is catching that, because what you shared is so spot on, Olivia. And you know, it's a special relationship. Having a relationship where you can understand the animal at a further depth is really cool. You definitely have it. I think that you could definitely offer some dog advice to your audience for sure. But yeah, you know, the secret of what you shared was body language. So your dog is conveying, communicating by way of body language, which just like humans, dogs communicate like 90-something% nonverbal. So I hope your audience will start to tune in more, not with what they're saying with their dog, but watch how your dog moves. Watch it all. Again, I'm a dog nerd, but for me, it's interesting, and it makes the relationship really special.
Well, and I know we're getting towards the end of time, but I want to ask you two more questions. So the first is, based on what we were just talking about as well, what do you think the priority or how much someone should learn into understanding the dog's backstory? Meaning, like Paco
Uh-huh.
Ella Teddy, they were breeded, they're from Florida, things like that. Tough is a rescue. So when we got Tough, that was a dog that was part of a 71 dog hoarding situation. He was beaten, starved, and left to die with 71 other dogs, right? Or 70 other dogs besides himself. So when he came in, it was, and he's a black lab, and at 8 months old, he weighed 15 pounds when they rescued him. Understanding that mindset of his journey to then be able to train him and get him comfortable and all of us on the same page, right? Way bigger dog than a Havanese. I can just tell anyone that. So like there was that too. Like how important do you think it is to understand the journey the dog has had prior to coming into someone's home?
I think it's only partially helpful, and here's why. As humans, we would tend to label the dog. We would then tend to overcompensate for the crappy life that the dog had. That's my fear, is that we're going to make up for it and be the hero. The best way to be the dog's hero is to give it what it didn't have by way of leadership, by way of balancing your own energy. Don't try to overcompensate. Now, the story only matters so far because dogs are far more resilient than us. I was at a potential client's house just the other day, well, a new client, better said, and she has a Malinois that I'm going to train, Belgian Malinois, and a little Frenchie. And the little Frenchie's back legs don't work. But you would never know it. He walks around with the front two like like nothing. They're resilient. They're not holding on to this story to some extent. There's some very sensitive souls, some dogs are. And for those dogs, we don't need to baby them. We need to expose them in a controlled way to help them be more confident. See, like, look, this thing's scary, but you can overcome it. No different than when I came home from the war. I was searching for bombs overseas. I came home and I was scared to step on sewer manhole covers. I thought that they would blow up. Literally, my mind would say, that's going to blow up. I mean, there's no way. Like, it's highly, highly, highly unlikely. That's where my mind went. But I exposed myself to it gradually and incrementally, and I overcame that fear. And the same thing with that traumatized dog. We, rather than avoid, we incrementally, simple to complex approach, expose them to so that they can overcome it and become confident.
Mhm. And what is my second question is out of the two is what is your thought? And I have a feeling I know it, but I want to hear from you. Is the free form training
Oh, okay,
aspect of
good.
this?
Most people don't know about that. Whoa. I got
Yes,
a
that is
fellow
what we do
dog
in our
nerd.
house.
I mean that
It,
with the most respect and care. I love it. Man, I think we need to have another show. So freeform, friends, well, can we explain what it is real quick? Can I tell them?
yes, yeah.
So, friends, freeform is not what's traditionally out there in dog training. It is, in my opinion, the highest level of shaping like tricks and behavior, but it takes the most amount of time. Free shaping, free forming is when the dog does a proximity to the behavior of which you want. For example, Olivia wants the dog to salute. As the dog raises that salute paw just a few inches, she will click or say yes and reward right away. You're rewarding the proximity of the end result. We're not focused on the end result right away. And so you are rewarding progress. You could tell I'm a dogger because I'm so excited talking about it. It's, in my opinion, the highest level of training. And the reason why is you do not tell the dog anything. The animal offers behavior and you capture it, AKA reward it. And the dog starts to say, every time I started to raise my paw, you would give me right away the thing I really love. So I'm like, I'm gonna do more of that kind of thing. And then you gradually ask for a little bit more and more and more and more. And that again is the highest level. The dog owns the knowledge because they're finding the answer themselves. It requires the most patience from us. There's no correction at all allowed. And it's a reward based thing that I think is great. But a lot of the people that I work with, they don't have the clients, they don't have the patience. They want results right away. And that it doesn't give results right away. It's very time consuming.
Yeah, it can be. I have learned too, because we with tough, that's like almost the only thing from the beginning we've been doing. And it's the only way we train now on things is the free form is like, and my boyfriend predominantly has done the training. And even when I started doing it, I'm like, oh, tough, you know this. Like, why aren't you? And he's like, it's not him, it's you. Stop the mindset, like change the way you're looking. Don't give him frustration. He's gonna get the frustration. But it
Yes,
is things
yes.
where like one day we did the like down command to have him lay because when we go out places we want to be able to easily give him a hand command and him know, okay, I'm just laying down here until I'm being told pray. And we thought it was going to take multiple, literally one day, because he's so
Wow.
used to it, and he got it a few times. It was like, okay. Now, was it perfect? No, but I could tell you in 3 days of 15-minute sessions, it was perfect. And we're like,
That's
what is
awesome.
this is great. But there are times you're doing something for weeks.
Is this a lab? Tough?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
black lab.
Yeah, wants to please you, food motivated, reward motivated. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's a good example of you have a willing participant that's motivated, and then you all as the humans are motivated, and you give the structure and the guidance, and it probably feels a bit fun for you guys. So you guys are not, and I say this in a respectful, kind way, you're not the norm dog owner. You guys are take it to another level, which I think is amazing. I wish more people not cared that much, but better said, I wish as many people put forth the same amount of effort, because it's just like anything else. You put the time and energy and effort into, you're gonna get some result. You will.
And and I'd love to hear your insights on this. And then I promise we will end the recording because I have another one. But I want to get your thoughts on this. I have found too, like, so with my first three dogs, I was young. I wasn't really training them, or I was at home, right? And our youngest dog, family dog, Teddy, he's had some anxiety. I do believe that we got him and then my parents redid their kitchen. So he was stuck in the bedroom where people were
Uh-huh.
walking in and out for months. And so that like kind of played into like his needing to pull a little bit on the leash, right? And
Mm.
now Teddy weighs 10 pounds, so he ain't really doing that much, right? He ain't really going that far, right? But it was funny because we train tough and not to he walks in the heel all the time, right? And all that. So when we went to visit my parents, and was like 6 months after we trained tough to always be in a heel position and this and that. My parents were joking. They're like, John, train Teddy to walk right next to us because Ella predominantly does that. And John goes, give me 1 hour. This will
Oh
be
yeah.
minutes, right? And John like held the leash in one spot and Teddy tried to pull and he immediately was like, nope, you're not getting any leash. You're gonna come back. And he'd like do the turn and like, the dogs hate doing the turns on the walk. And
Yep.
within like 20 minutes, he's just right next to him the whole way,
Oh,
like
I love
looking
it.
up. And so I believe too, it's not just like you could only train a dog when it's a certain age. Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, so is it too, what do they say? Is you can't teach an old dog new tricks? I
yeah.
always joke like it's only true with spouses.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important to also identify. It's like your dog can learn those skills at any age.
Yeah, the oldest I've trained, it was a black lab. It was 15 years old. It's quite a while ago, but yeah, any age you can train a dog, because again, they're far more resilient and they're more open to learning a lot more so than we are.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, World of Dog Training on Instagram is a really good way. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting. I got a bunch of resources, free resources that people can receive. All they got to do is just send me a DM, World of Dog Training.
Thank you, Ryan, for all of your insight today.
Oh, it was fun. I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show, and maybe we could do it again, part two. Because again, anytime to talk dogs, and I love that I'm with a fellow dog nerd. It's always a good time. So thank you so much, Olivia. You're great.
Of course. And I'm going to say it right now, which I never say. We will do a part two down the line.
I'm
So
honored. I'm honored.
we got this locked in right now. It will happen. We will go deeper. And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation are there's two types of dog, the pleaser and the one that's asking what is in it for me. I think it's so important that Ryan brought this up because you need to be able to understand your dog. And this is a theme throughout today's conversation, not just understand your dog, but its mentality to be able to train it correctly, give it the best life, and be able to connect in the best way possible to your dog, as well as be a leader to your dog. We all want to love our animals, right? We all want them to be a part of our family, but understand, as Ryan said, your dog is used to being part of the pack, right? It's used to having a leader. And I love how he brought up of understanding how you would trust the leader in the dynamic, how you would want a leader to show up, that confidence, right, and all the things. And that's how you should be showing up with your dogs, as well as understanding that dogs feel your energy. So if you're anxious about a scenario or doing something with your dog is going to then feed off that. And I love that I love that Ryan brought up the pause method. So always pause. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Ryan Matthews. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.